Welcome, everybody. It is 6:30. Oh, I don't even have a watch on. It's 6:31. I know we're late. We're running a minute behind, and I apologize. Welcome. It's nice to see so many people out. On behalf of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, we are thrilled to be able to offer this last forum in a series of 4 different ones that we've done. Lene Gatoski is our moderator for this evening. I have introduced her 3 different times. You can go to YouTube or springfieldcommerce.com and find out all about Lene. Not gonna, yes, sir. I'm not loud enough? Wow. I need someone to write that down because I've never heard it before. It's okay. You've just given me permission. Opening up the voice, Lene Gatoski, our moderator. Thank you, and take over.
Thank you, Shandy. It is my absolute pleasure to extend a welcome to all you folks from the RM of Springfield. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for supporting, listening, and having some engagement in what our 2 candidates here are about to say. They want your vote on October 26th, and so we thank you, and we thank incumbent Mayor Tiffany Fell and candidate Pat Terrian for participating in this forum and sharing their vision of the RM of Springfield. I also want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for their efforts in setting this up and the Sunrise School Division for providing this location. As your moderator tonight, I am going to start with some housekeeping rules. We all know in case of an emergency where the exits are. There's doors all over the gymnasium here, but through the front to the north and also as you came in from the parking lot. One of our housekeeping rules is that we ask for no jeering, leering comments, yelling, kicking, biting, that kind of thing. This is all going to be very, very classy, and one of the things that I want to reiterate is our theme is positive, and we're going to keep this moving forward. Do remember that there is the indelible social network, and if you do anything silly, you might find yourself on Rant and Rave. Or like I've said in past nights, in the Clipper in the crime scene. So just putting it out there. I'm going to go right into tonight's rules of engagement. Courtney DeVito from the Chamber of Commerce is our timer tonight. Where are you? There you are. Okay, and she will be timing the 3-minute question allowance time. So at a minute, we're going to go yellow card. That means you get ready to wrap up. And with 30 seconds to go, she will be flashing the red card so that you can wrap up. Daryl Hebert from GT Holdings is our videographer, and this entire session will be on YouTube. We will be giving the candidates 5 questions tonight, and we'll be randomly selecting which order they answer them in. And again, they have 3 minutes. Followed by this, we're going to have a random question that they can pick out of a hat. There's several in a hat. I'm going to get them to think on their feet. And then we are going to follow that up with public questions. Now, public questions, we have cards and pens available at 2 tables in the room. You can write your question down and your name, please, and indicate who the question is for. Raise your hand and your card will be collected by Scott or Kathleen. And I will read 1 question at a time, but I'll be honest, if there's repetition and or the response has already answered that question, I will vet that out and skip it in a mode of moving forward. There's a lot of you here tonight, and that's good to see, so we want to stay on time. Again, if there's similar questions, I will only ask it once. But before we start all of this, one of the things that I'd like to ask throughout the week, unexpected, of course, we would ask that you take that 3 minutes for your first question. Introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, but also the big question, why would you like to run for mayor of the RM of Springfield? And we will start with incumbent Mayor Tiffany.
Thank you, Lene. Wow, it has to be very close. Wow, you weren't kidding. So I'm going to give just a bit of introduction to myself. First, I want to say it's great to see so many people come out and participate in the democratic process. A bit of history on myself. I grew up in Springfield. up near Birds Hill Park. I've lived outside of Enola. I've lived in the town of Oakbank. Now I live on 20 acres rurally with my husband and my kids, and we love it. I've been elected to council for 8 years, 4 years as a councillor, now 4 years as the head of council. Before I was elected, I worked in the financial services industry. I also have a Bachelor of Business Administration. And in 2021, I completed my Master's in Business Administration when I majored in leadership. Over the last 8 years, I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to serve our community. It's exciting to see all these fantastic projects and initiatives move forward and to see all this amazing progress in Springfield. A few weeks ago, we put out a term in review. It's on the website. Anybody can go and view it. There's multiple pages of great things that have happened in every area of the community, and that's really one of the reasons why I ran. I want the community to see value for their tax dollars and see your tax dollars at work for you. A lot has been accomplished during my last 4 years as mayor, and it's a very exciting time, and I want to move forward with that into the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. We would ask Pat Terrian the same question.
Good evening.
You got to be right up close.
Good evening. Everybody hear me? I'd like to thank you for coming to the Mayoral Forum. It shows your interest in the government where your vote is important. I'd like to thank Shandy, Lene, and the Springfield Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. I am a very proud parent of four adult kids. They're all educated in Oakbank and playing sports in the Oakbank, Dugald, and the Hazel Ridge areas. I also have two gorgeous grandkids and one more on the way. I recently turned 62 years of age. I'm retired from the RSMP as a sergeant with 34 and a half years of exemplary service. I've been awarded a medal and commendation for bravery. I've been a detachment and unit commander and know how to work in a team environment. I've worked north, south, patrolling and working in Springfield for 14 years, which I thoroughly enjoyed. As a detachment commander, I was responsible for annual performance plans, the budgets, allocations and fundings, projections, contingency plans, as well as liaisoning with the chief and council when I was up north, reeves and mayors. Investigations in creating a safe work environment and unit policies. As a unit commander, I was in headquarters, I was in charge of an intelligence unit, which is, for lack of a better words, in charge of important police information and data banks throughout Canada, North America, and Interpol. Also, after retiring from the RSMP, I had 6 days off, and I went straight to working as a director of security at the Deer Lodge Center. I did that from 2016 to 2018, at which time my position was terminated with the budget cuts through the Winnipeg Health Authority. There was 200 cuts throughout a 3-month period, and I just happened to be one of them. So I went back to retirement. I enjoy playing hockey. I switched to playing to goalie 4 years ago. I was terrible at being a forward, and I couldn't skate backwards, so defense wasn't an option. So our team needed a goalie, and I was just the guy to do the job, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I should have been playing that years ago. I enjoy motorcycle riding, camping. I really love reading Canadian history, and sports autobiographies are my passion. I've lived in Oakbank for 31 years, and I call that home. I attended the University of Alberta, had started a degree in criminology, and was called into the RSMP. Which time I figured I would complete my degree, and I was never in an area where I could, and that was before the days of the internet and using the internet to complete that degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. How is the volume out there? Okay, so we would ask that you guys increase your volume a little bit. We'll turn up the mics a little bit, but talk right into that. The acoustics in this gym are slightly muffled, so we apologize for that, but we'll just be louder. I'm good at being loud. So the next question, in the effort of mixing things up, Pat, we're going to get you to answer our first selected question. Now, these folks have had these questions for about a week and a half or so, And so we'd love to hear your take on what do you see as the RM's top 3 priorities, and then please tell us about your top priority.
My priorities are fiscal responsibility / infrastructure, water resources, and public safety.
Okay, you know what? If you could be a little louder, they're just having, yeah, just a little closer to the mic, Pat, thanks.
Anytime.
You can start. We'll give
Okay,
you
my
3
priorities is fiscal responsibility, the infrastructure, water resources, and public safety. Because I'm time constrained, I'm going to start with water resources. The CIO Silica is a high-risk project to our drinking water and all other RMs that share it. 1.3 million tons of filtration sand gone per year and potentially returning old contaminated water back into the aquifer. With 9,000 well sites and 8,000 acres also makes this a wasteland at the termination of the project. These wells are capped only and will eventually fail, allowing water to directly seep into the aquifer. It is a certainty that it will leak, and it's a ticking time bomb. Creating new bylaws, I will create new bylaws to protect our water source. We can keep saying it's a province's mandate, but we must be proactive as we are the stewards of our RM. The negatives are huge and the positives are very limited. We need our drinking water and to drink and air to breathe. Public safety would restart the Rural Crime Watch program within the RM. Traffic plan, working closely with the provincial government to ensure our traffic master plan and Winnipeg's traffic plans are in the forefront, ensuring that we are on top of it. Installing flashing pedestrian crossings so our elderly citizens can cross safely and students going to and from school in Oakbank, Dugald, and Enola. Work with the provincial government reducing speed limits south of 206 or south of 15 on 206, approaching a crosswalk in Dugald, as well as in Enola and Highway 15. Fiscal responsibility is getting our recreational center built. After 31 years, the present plan is incomplete. The hall is too small, Dugald's is larger. The cost is unknown, but projected at 26 million. Can we afford this? Why did we pay for another plan when one was already present? This has been an election issue 3 times with Mayor Fell. We are waiting ICIP decision without no plan B. I want a hall. Our community needs a hall, and I will have it built. And if we have to do it in stages, we'll do it in a responsible way. We have to deal with the Springfield Police Service. We already pay for the RSMP. This has not been addressed for decades. Someone has to talk about it. I will, with council and the public input, look into this. The town water is bring older residents in the RM of Springfield up to standards like the new subdivisions. Drinking water plus fire hydrants. Why not give the same safety to our older residents? I am one of them. Taking care of our people as well.
Time. Thank you, Pat.
I was close.
So we would ask, and I will repeat the question to Tiffany Fell. What do you see as the RM's top 3 priorities? Then please tell us more about your top priority.
Thank you, Lene. The top 3 priorities that I've identified for Springfield are public safety and community services, economic development and responsible growth, and working collaboratively with other levels of government. Over the past 4 years, I've worked hard alongside Council to improve community amenities such as parks and playgrounds and developing active pathway networks throughout our community. I also feel it is important to continue to invest in our current facilities and support our strong volunteer base that do an amazing job running our community clubs and various programs throughout the RM. I want to make sure that citizens have safe, quality spaces that serve both our social and our recreational needs. I want to continue to improve services to the entire municipality, and I will continue to work with administrations to find solutions to do this. As mayor, along with council, our goal is to create policies, bylaws, and new programs that will enhance services across the entire RM. One of my focuses was, and continues to be, ensuring that our community is safe. Public safety is extremely important, and there were several projects and initiatives that were completed and some that are ongoing. that are going to continue to make our community safer. For instance, the new fire hall in Ward 1, the upgraded fire hall in Ward 4, the CP rail pedestrian crossing north of Oakbank, the new public works building in Enola, and the numerous water studies to protect our water supply. Council also commissioned a fire services review, and we were currently going through recommendations and implementing ones that are relevant and applicable to our community. Our emergency management plan was also recently completed, and the plan was created with input from staff, council, and our EMO, as well as a consultant. Next is economic development and responsible growth. So economic development is absolutely critical to building a sustainable community. This will allow for residents and businesses both to thrive. It provides local employment, it keeps people in the community, encourages local participation in activities, shopping, eating out, and utilizing local recreational amenities. Lastly, working collaboratively with other levels of government. I want to continue to work with other levels of government to inquire grants and explore other funding that may be available to contribute costs to share projects in Springfield. I did have my own personal priority, but I will add that into my executive summary at the end.
Thank you, Tiffany. I missed one thing, and just so that you all know, and I was so excited to see all of you here and our two candidates. We do have a third candidate, Edwin Giesbrecht. He had prior engagement and wasn't able to come, so I guess you could reach out to Edwin Giesbrecht if you have any questions for him. Our second question, and we will give this to you, Mayor Tiffany Fell.
Thank you.
What has been your biggest contribution to our municipality to date?
Thank you. So 9 years ago at my church, I started a giveaway day for the community. So our congregation brought in items that were in both good and excellent use condition, and we had a free barbecue. It was successful. Every year we had dozens and dozens of people come through, and it was a great way to meet people in the community and connect with them. 5 years ago, I thought what a great idea it would be to bring this community-wide. So we started the Share-a-thon, and I contacted community clubs, volunteer groups, co-op, and the churches in the community. And everyone got together, and we had host events at the community clubs, and the churches supplied the barbecue materials, and it was such a great event. People came and took what they needed and dropped off things for other people in the community. It was just so good for everybody to come together to an event like that. We did have to put the event on hold because of COVID, but it will be back next year. It's just a great way to also keep items out of the landfill that historically people probably would have taken and thrown into the garbage, but someone else has a use for. Personally, I volunteered at a number of various community events through the RM, at my church, and with my kids cadet program. When I look over my time at council, there are a couple of projects and initiatives I'd also like to highlight that I'm particularly proud of and I was really excited to be a part of. So 3 years ago, I came to council with the idea to have a tree program, and I can't take full credit because it actually came from my husband. But I came to council and said I'd love to do a giveaway of trees to the community, and that's what started that program. It was a pilot program, and once it was completed, there was some hiccups, but we got feedback from the community on how to make it better the year after, and we hosted the year after, and it was an even better event, and we're going to continue that in the future. Another is the sidewalk in the town of Enola. So we were very concerned about kids walking along the highway. It's been decades they've been doing that, and just this year we completed that sidewalk, and it's been wonderful to have all our little people off the highway, off to the side, walking to school and keeping safe. Lastly is our LED lighting upgrades in our buildings. So we always want to do things that are environmentally conscious to contribute to reducing climate change. We changed over all our LED lights in our buildings, and it was great to have that initiative as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Mr. Tarian, what has been your biggest contribution to the municipality to date?
I've worked as an RCMP officer in the community for 14 years, conducting many investigations from minor to the most extreme. I know each community within the RM very well, the different dynamics, the roads, and most importantly, the people and the geography. I was a primary investigator in the 3 child deaths, drownings at the Birds Hill Provincial Park in the summer of 1994. A subsequent inquest was instrumental in making the Birds Hill Park safer for all kids, mine included at that time. I have coached soccer, assistant coach in hockey. I've been on Fort Safegrad committees, and of course I was assigned as the security guy. I chaperoned the SCI hockey team to Ottawa and Chicago. I volunteered at another time around. I did that for 3 years, where I was picking up clothes and items for the Blue Box. I don't do that now. I delivered Thanksgiving and Christmas hampers in every detachment I've been at. Raising the 4 children, my 4 kids in the community would be my biggest and best contribution by far. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. We're going to put this question to you as well. How, Pat, would you attract new business to Springfield? Or if you don't want new business, please tell us why.
Oh, I want a new business. I also want to help and strengthen those businesses already here, from the small and to the large. I'd like to do that by bringing in multifamily housing that's affordable. Young families want what Springfield offers. That's the rural lifestyle, good schools, recreational spots, and above all, a safe place to raise their children. I want our development plan and our zoning bylaws adhered to. Enhanced green spaces, green buffer zones between commercial areas. I don't want Oak Bank or any community within the RM of Springfield to be just another suburb. I want to envision it being much more appealing in that rural setting. Tax exemption on businesses are good, but do we need to have them for 5 years of tax exemptions? Many businesses do not last to 5 years on an initial onstart. We have to get our house in order as well. First, we have to hire a finance manager and an economic development manager. The finance manager position has been vacant for 8 months, going on to 9 months, with a pay of about $95,000, while the economic development manager's position has been vacant since 2019 at a base pay of around $69,000. I'm not quite sure why we can't hang on to the people that we get in that positions, but they've been vacant for a while and they're integral to our business plan within the RM of Springfield. Also, there's going out there as well to attract businesses, trying new paths, trying to attract IT businesses, research and development, higher education like farming and veterinary medicine, something along that line. I would like to see rapid charge centers for electric vehicles and getting grants for provincial and federal governments, which would be ideal for businesses within the RM of Springfield. And we can help facilitate and be a good role model in this the new generation coming up of EV vehicles. The new solar panel plant to be built in Selkirk could have been ours if we'd had an economic development manager in place who could have pursued this. We are near to Highway Number 1, Centerport North, and railroad services. So it would have been ideal. We would have been at least in a short list of communities. The finance manager job oversees all the spending and produces budgets and annual reports. He or she is integral to ensure the bills are paid and accurate, and as well as doing our annual budgets there. The position is intricate for a sustained, healthy business environment within the RM of Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So we'll ask that same question, Tiffany. How would you attract new business to Springfield? Do you want new business? If not, please tell us why.
Thank you. And of course, we want new business in Springfield. As I mentioned previously, economic development is critical to maintaining a healthy community. As a council, we have taken a number of steps to create a business-friendly environment. The first was embarking on a development plan, zoning plan, and secondary plans. Each and every one of those plans had extensive community input from the public when they were being created. For example, our development plan had 15 open houses. These documents have areas set out for development that help to create a clear and understandable plan for organizations that are interested in moving their operations into Springfield. We created a tax incentive policy. This tax incentive policy is not an exemption for 5 years of taxes. It's an incremental tax policy that is a over 5 years. So every year there's a 20% step up until you're at your full taxes after 5 years. This tax incentive policy was modeled after the city of Winkler, actually, and this city has seen explosive business growth, and it's a great example on how to encourage business growth in a community. They have one of the fastest growing business communities in Canada, and we want to see that growth here. We've hired a business development officer whose specific job is to work with new and exciting existing businesses, as well as developers that are interested in bringing investment into Springfield. Unfortunately, he had to leave earlier this year, not in 2019. His family's from another country, and he decided he wanted to be closer to his family, but we are actively looking to fill that position with the right person who can bring businesses to Springfield and help expanding businesses as well. Businesses have the opportunity to come to council as a delegation to speak about their business expansion or the new business they want to operate in our community. They also have the opportunity to set up a meeting with relevant directors and myself as the mayor to have a round table for information. That would include people like the director of planning, our business development officer, our CAO, our finance manager, and our public works and director of water and waste, whatever is applicable for that business coming into Springfield. Every one of these policies or RM initiatives are important and will help to attract and retain our business base in Springfield.
Thank you. So our next question, and we will go back to you, Tiffany, in the essence of mixing it up and being fair. Tell us about a time you have changed your mind on an issue.
My responsibility as an elected official requires that I have an open mind at all times. I strive to make sure that I listen to all sides of an issue or request when it comes to the RM or to council. Sometimes this process is quick, and with other requests or initiatives that come forward, this process is longer. But in the end, my job is to hear all of the information before making a final decision. Being on council is a constant learning process. Resident issues and requests are ever changing, and I must remain open-minded and evaluate each issue on its applications and its own merit. A good example of this is recently a number of residents wanted to subdivide their land in A20 areas, and one resident had 19.99 acres. And because we had put the word shall in our development plan versus should, and apparently there's a big difference there according to the provincial planning department, that application was denied. So council came with an amendment to the public of changing shall to should, and a couple of councillors on council suggested we put also a 10% variance on that, so that when someone comes in slightly below something that's zoned as 5 acres or slightly below 20 acres, they will now have the opportunity to have that leeway of a 19-acre lot or a 4.7-acre lot. So when I first voted on the development plan in 2019 to now, I had to make some changes and have a new learning process to understand why this was a benefit to the community and to our residents. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Same thing, Pat. Tell us about a time you've changed your mind on an issue.
There's actually two, and I'm probably not going to have time for the second. But the first one here is when I initially heard of the Can White's Sands project, I thought this could be a good business, help bring jobs and add to our tax base. So that changed. I was alarmed in how silent our RM was not making any comments or communicating with its citizens, while those people closely affected were active and handed out information. Just before the election, I started hearing things from the council in that they denied a new rezoning of silica sand processing plant, but nothing for the most part before this. The provincial government allowed this and reluctantly have ordered a review of the extraction process via a Clean Environment Commission hearing. This did not just come out of the blue to the RM. This company would have contacted the RM at one time before the process was going through the provincial planning department. Although the province proved that we had to give our opinions and our insight on it as well. I did meet with the representatives of Silica Sand as well as those wanting to shut it down to gather more info on this project. I'm not a scientist. What we need is impartial experts with no bias on either side. But with that said, we cannot allow the project to go ahead unless we are 100% certain that it will not affect our water, and that so far nobody can tell me that will be the case. How much time have I got? Okay. The other issue there, the Mayor fella touched upon the change in the zoning bylaws from shall to should. In no uncertain terms, when you have shall and should, it changes significantly enforcement of any bylaws, laws or bylaws. When you have the word should, it's non-enforceable. There's nothing that could be done with regards to that. I understand that changing it with a caveat and a leeway of 10% seemed to be a good idea, and I like the idea of compromise. I like to talk and discuss. I just love to do that. But if it was changed that it should be with a caveat of 10% flexibility on that, it should be. I would be fine with having shall with a 10% caveat. When you put the word should, it's non-enforceable. It's not something that we can do. And laws aren't supposed to be ambiguous. They're supposed to be concise and clear. If the person's making that law, or to happen to go across the road and get hit by a bus or something like that, it should be in writing, so it's specific. When you use the word should, it's non-specific and it's ambiguous, and it's interpreted any number of different ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. So, Mr. Pat Terrian, are there any ways in which the RM of Springfield and Sunrise School Division could work collaboratively? Give us an example if you can.
Yes, and in my job as an RSMP, both from a constable to a sergeant, we have to interact with the people and all the different levels of government, whether I'm on a reserve or if I'm in a community. The same thing applies. I was a primary investigator in an elementary school fire here, if people remember, 25 years ago, where the elementary school essentially basically burned down. I had a good relationship with the schools before, and it helped greatly when we needed it in an emergency. We could easily facilitate collaborative efforts on the part of the RM with the trustees at different levels, as well as high as the superintendent. The Sunrise School Division is made aware of new subdivisions by the Provincial Planning Department regarding busing. The RM doesn't communicate other than that, and we should start doing dialogue with them as well. I've had this brought to my attention as canvassing as well. We can form a committee, schedule regular intervals to meet and discuss issues. That's the key. If you know each other in calm times, you'll be better able to deal with high-stress situations if it ever occurs later on. Years ago, there was a movement to rebuild the running track and the football field south of the middle school. I'm not quite sure whatever happened to that. And I would like to look further into that along with the school division. And I think it would be a great asset to have that into our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Mrs. Tiffany Fell, are there any ways in which the RM of Springfield and the Sunrise School Division could work collaboratively?
So having regularly scheduled meetings will help both elected bodies to have an up-to-date understanding of what is happening in the school division as well as our municipality. The RM and the school division are so closely linked that there are a lot of projects that do overlap. When new ideas or projects come about, collaboration between Springfield and the school division will help to move these initiatives forward. Our goals are the same. We want to have a safe and healthy community and school system for our kids. Currently, we are working with the school division on a parking lot behind the daycare. The daycare is operated by the school division. Our Public Works Department has had conversation regarding pathway initiatives and the school division has wanted to construct. We need to continue to build on the communication that exists between Springfield and Sunrise, as we are both serving the public and have a responsibility to ensure that progress is occurring in our community. And since I have a little bit of time left, I'm going to go back to my personal priority that I missed in the question earlier because I went over time. So communication. Looking back 4 years ago, one of the biggest concerns I heard from residents was wanting increased communication from council. Together with council and administration, we came up with several ideas to work towards increasing this communication with the community. This included creating a print newsletter, which was later changed to an online version, email blasts out to the public. Residents do need to go to our website to sign up to get those, and I will encourage everybody to do that. It is a great way to get quick updates on important information. We had a fire near the Hillside Transfer Station. Well, there was a fire last year, and we were able to let everybody know if you were planning to take garbage to the transfer station that Saturday, please don't go. We shut it down for resident safety and our staff safety, and it was a great way to get our message out. Our municipal website has been updated too, and we continue to make improvements to make it easier for residents to navigate, and this will continue to be an ongoing initiative. So communication is super important. I always want to hear from residents too. If you have other ideas or suggestions how we can communicate even more and even better, I want to hear from you, and we're going to continue working on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to ask you some random questions. There's about a dozen in here. Both of them will be different. And we'll start with you, Pat. I'll read the question. Thank you. Pat, give us an example of a time you've reached out to a person or a group on a different side of an issue, and what was the outcome?
It's hard to define that or give it a proper example. I've been involved. I was a crisis negotiator with the RSMP for 14 years as well. I think answering that question, I could give you specifics on issues that were brought before me that were quite sensitive and highly volatile. You had to establish rapport with the people there and try to problem solve at the same time. So you've got people in a team effort trying to solve the situation for the better of the person or persons involved. As a negotiator, as the primary negotiator or the secondary, whatever my position was in that time, you had to try to problem solve the situation, and many of the situations, like I say, were quite volatile. I had one in a negotiation that lasted for 3 days. For several of the moments there, I was able to talk the person down, almost getting it solved, and then we were back to square one. So several of the issues you had to try to problem solve and get the person to evaluate why he or she is in that position, how you can better understand them, be empathetic to their situation, and try to establish a rapport and get a situation solved without any violence or any further violence. That should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tiffany Fell.
Festive.
Your question is, have you ever engaged in a negative social media or disparaging others on social media? Please elaborate.
So since I've been elected, one of my goals has been to be more active on social media. Facebook specifically, that seems to be the platform of choice in Springfield, although I am on Instagram. Whenever I am tagged on Facebook, I will go on and answer the questions and provide the information, provide the facts to the public. Whenever I see information that perhaps isn't 100% correct, or the rumor mill is starting to run amok, I will go online and clarify council's position or give information on why we did what we did or how we voted. I will continue to do that. I like to be very active on social media. It seems that in the time we're in, misinformation just seems to flow freely, not just in Springfield. It seems to be everywhere. never disparaging about it, just want to make sure that the constituency base has access to the accurate information. I should also encourage everybody, if you're always looking for more information, contact the RM office. They're a great resource. If you want to get all the minutes or an understanding of what's happened, our directors are great, our CIO is great. They will provide everything that you need. So I will continue to communicate on social media and provide all the information that residents are looking for.
Thank you, Tiffany. All right, so we had put it out earlier that we were going to take questions from the audience. We asked you to fill out a card on either side. Scott and Kathleen, if you want to put your hand up, if there's any others to collect. But we also asked you that if you could please put your name on there and who you'd be asking that question of. And again, we'll go through them if given the time, we're not going to do 100 questions. And I will vet if some of them are repetitive or if the candidates have responded and answered the question previously. Thank you. And to make this fair, I am going to shuffle them up. Okay, this question, fittingly, incumbent Mayor Tiffany Fell. Why did we switch from Reeve to Mayor? This question didn't have its name on it. Anybody else, please put your name on it. Thank you.
It's a great question. So most of the Winnipeg metro regions have switched over from Reeve to Mayor. It was for continuity between municipalities. Unfortunately, with people moving in, the term Reeve, people didn't understand what it is. It was very much a business decision. So when businesses would come into Springfield, staff and myself would meet with them, or I would talk to them on the phone. And at the end of an hour conversation, they would say, okay, can I now talk to the mayor? So I'd have to go through an entire explanation of saying the Reeve and the mayor are the same position and they have the same responsibilities. There's no difference between Reeve and mayor. It was just to make it simple, to make us consistent with St. Clements and Selkirk and East St. Paul and Reshot and Taché. Everybody around us is the mayor, and it just made logical sense to do that. And when you are elected, one of the first things you have to do is address that bylaw, and that's why it happens so quickly in the term, because council is required to look at that bylaw, make any amendments or changes that we need to, and so that happened very quickly when I was first elected. But it was simply a change to be consistent and just to create some understanding in the business community and with residents as well.
Thank you, Tiffany. Now I'm going through the questions here, and if you see me shuffle them, it's not because I'm picking them. I'm picking others in case it was a repeat, or I couldn't read your writing, or you didn't put your name. Thank you. Pat, would you as mayor revisit the number of wards in Springfield Municipality as a plebiscite for the next election so the people can choose? Richard Kufner has asked that question.
Could I have that, though?
You certainly can.
If elected as Reeve, I would revisit. Would I revisit the number of wards? No, I think we got more important issues to deal with at this moment. Will I look at that later on? That'll be a council decision along with some compromise with the CEO and so on like that. I know it's going to cost money to do that, so I think we have better ways of spending the money. But to answer the question, I would take that under advisement, but at this point, I don't see that being the case in the very near future within a 4-year mandate. I'll address it maybe later into that mandate. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Again, there's a few out here that haven't put their name or mentioned who, so in this case, we're going to assume both. The last election, this question was asked, and I would like to ask this time around. For these candidates, primarily for the incumbent, Being in the role of mayor is a 4-year commitment. Are you willing and able to give the residents the 4-year commitment to serve the residents as an elected official? And this comes from Ann Wojcik. Tiffany?
Yes, I am committed. I promised last election I would run again, and that's why I'm sitting here. There's a lot of things to get done. We have a lot of projects in the works to get completed. I want to see whatever is started to be completed. We want to see that value for your tax dollars. We want to make sure that we're moving forward, seeing progress in the community. Continuity of council is a great thing. This is a very big job. We run a $30 million budget. I firmly believe if you want to be the head of council, you need to do a term as councillor first. To gain an understanding. It took me a couple years as councillor just to fully understand what was going on. I know I've heard that from my fellow councillors just a couple nights ago, that they still say when you're first elected, it's just so much to learn. We're building an assisted living facility in Dougal. That's a $24 million building. That bumps our budget up to $54 million. You need to have experience and education, and in fairness to the community, I want to hit the ground running. I have that 8 years experience, and I will be able to do that. If you would be so kind as to come out and vote for me on the 15th or the 26th. And I just think it's very important that we continue to work at the pace we're working at. I work full-time hours, more than full-time hours. This is more than a 40-hour-a-week job. It's a 24-hour-a-day job. I take it very seriously. This is what I spend my time on. It's what residents deserve with their tax dollars, and it's what I will continue to give, if reelected on the 26th. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Pat, same question. Being in the role of mayor is a 4-year commitment. Are you willing and able to give the residents that 4-year commitment?
Well, the answer, yes, I will. I signed up for my duty as an RSMP, and I was committed to that. I'll be committed to this job as well as Reeve in the RM of Springfield. 4 years, like Mayor Fell was saying, I understand it's going to be a commitment. My ability to learn is there. I've run detachments. I was a constable up to a sergeant. I've run an intelligence unit there. More than capable. I've run budgets, allocated contingency plans, formulated policies. I've run my detachments well. I've never had, well, there's always issues. I was about to say there's no issues, but there's always issues with manpower, getting your allotments in there. And as part of that commitment, I'll be looking at a 4-year commitment and a steep learning curve, and I'm more than capable of doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. This question is for Mayor Tiffany. You have indicated that you have done a lot for Oak Bank. The question here is, what have you done for the rural community? And that comes from Jerry Kufner, or Cooper.
That is a great question. I actually bought our term in review, and I'm going to run through this quickly because it's 17 pages long, and I assure you not everything was done in Oak Bank. So, under community services, we did a splash pad, a community playground, a Springfield Center sidewalk. We oversaw maintenance of parks and shared community spaces in all the towns. We completed the Kin Park pathway, the Jody Park pathway. We reconstructed Deacon Road and Lornhill Road, which is in Ward 1. We did land improvements to retention ponds, a pedestrian crossing, which is actually in Ward 5, Springfield Road reconstruction, which was Ward 1, Holland Street extension, which was Ward 5, Public Works pathways, both of those were in Oak Bank, the bridge project on Garvin Road and Mill Road, which was Ward 4, Hazel Ridge drainage improvements was Ward 5, the Green Pathway Phase 2, that's Oak Bank Drive, the pathway construction at Gillespie is in Dugald, Ward 5, the Bismarck Street reconstruction was Ward 1, the CPR drain upgrades was in Ward 5, the rehabilitation of the Sapton Road Bridge over Cooks Creek was Ward 3, we did some whistle sensations. I'm not good with that word, I apologize, but those were at 3 different railways in different areas of the RM. We reconstructed Poplar Road, which was Ward 5. We did Hazel Ridge drain improvements, which was Ward 5. We did the pathway in Enola, which is Ward 4. We reconstructed Benton Avenue and Weiser Crescent, which was Ward 4. We did the pathway along Academy Street. We did the Dugald Water Treatment Plant upgrade, which was Ward 5. We did Enola Water Treatment Plant. We did the Oak Bank Lift Station. We did the Hillside Transfer Station Trading Post Building, which was Ward 5. We bought an emergency potable water tanker, which is for the whole RM. We did the Southwind Raw Water Line, which was Ward 5. We did the Cards Transfer Station program, which was for both transfer stations, Ward 4 and Ward 3. So I could keep going with the list, but I think that's just a pretty clear indication of this council has really focused on absolutely every corner of the RM. We want to hear what residents want to see with their tax dollars, but we really want to see tax dollars in all areas, and that's what we've strived to achieve over the last 4 years. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Kuffner.
Thank you. This question is from Frank Simard, and it's for Pat. Pat, why do you think you could, as a mayor, run as a mayor without a term as councillor first?
I was in charge. Again, I feel like a broken record, but I had 34 and a half years of the RSMP. Started off obviously as a constable and worked my way up as a sergeant. I was in charge of detachments, East St. Paul detachment. I took over that detachment from the East St. Paul police there. I was in charge of that for the 10 months before the sergeant came in. I was just a corporal at that point there. I was a detachment commander at Headingley. I was a detachment commander at Pungassi, Little Grand. I was one of the last one-man detachments in Oxford House there. My ability to learn is like anything else. I bring the experience of running detachments, fiscal, financial reports, my projections for my budgets, annual performance plans. There's quite an exhaustive thing for running a detachment. It's not something I can really get too far into without boring the heck out of you. But essentially, you're a manager of people who essentially wear guns and are out there, trying to solve crime and be proactive. I think that I'm quite intelligent enough to take on that responsibility, and it all comes down to a team. Unless you have the proper team underneath you to work, and as a reeve, you work as a team with councillors. You're no better than anybody else on the council there. You listen to the people, and you get all the information from them. And make an informed decision. Not everybody's going to be happy with your decisions, and I understand that. Running a detachment the same way. I had people that were mad at me for various reasons, be it they're members of the RSMP, or they're the chiefs and councils, or mayors or reeves. There's always a commitment there, and you have to work as a team to do that. So my ability to be straight to a reeve, I think intelligent to run that. I've had exhaustive experience running detachments and unit intelligence units on top of that. So I think that answers it. I hope it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. This question is for Tiffany, and it's from Glenn Johnson. Tiffany, what do you see as the reason for the problem the RM has had in keeping a fire chief and police chief?
I can't really answer to the police chief. So council actually has no jurisdiction over the police force. It's run by the board. I think that it is a challenge sometimes having two police forces, but since we've signed the agreement to work together with the two collaboratively, the RCMP and Springfield Police. Springfield Police as a secondary force has been a great complement to fill the need that the RCMP simply can't. As we all know, the resources across Canada are down. So our SPS is able to really work on the initiatives that we're hearing from the public that the RCMP just doesn't simply have the time to do. Bylaw enforcement, interacting with the school divisions, monitoring our pits, ensuring that we have great coverage at all times in the RM. So that's been great to see in Springfield. In regards to the fire chief, since I've been elected, we haven't had a lot of turnover in the fire chief. We had one retirement, and unfortunately, the last fire chief that left, he came from another province with a parent, and some family issue came up, and he had to go back to Ontario. I can't get into HR issues, but it was something outside of his control, something outside of our control. We now have a fire chief. He's been with us for years and years and years. Mr. Brian Seaton, we're very excited to have him on board. He's working closely with council administration to make sure that they have the proper equipment in their fire department. We have our fire services review. He's working with that to implement all those recommendations, coming up with new and improved policies for our fire department. So in that way, we're on a great path forward. We just finished, like I mentioned before, the Ward 1 Fire Hall, which we've been needing for almost a decade. We upgraded the Ward 4 Fire Hall, so it's in great condition, great service facilities for our firefighters. So we're on a great path forward with our fire service. I can't compliment them enough for what they do as a volunteer service. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. This question is for both of you, and it's from Ralph Regier. He says, first of all, thank you to both of you and the councillors and candidates for your contribution and your service to Springfield. That's nice. Every council faces controversial issues and questions. How do you process or decide on those issues? Now, this is for both of you. We'll ask you first, Pat.
Could I read that?
Sure can.
Well, Mr. Regier, I would say if there's always going to be controversial issues to deal with there. The whole idea of any issue is trying to get as much insight into the issue as possible. Gather all the evidence, that's my cop talk there, gather all the information together and come up with an informed decision with council and as Reeve, and then bring in qualified experts if you have to. What you want to do is not make it a snap decision, make an informed decision. There's nothing worse than if you make a snap decision, then you have to live with something that's without the full insight on the matter. When it comes to situations like that, I had to do this often as a member of the RSMP. The process on making the decisions, not everybody's going to be happy. I don't expect that any issue will be 100% satisfaction. There's always going to be somebody in a peripheral there that's is not going to be happy, but I think the whole idea is that if that person isn't happy and they've been heard and the decision didn't come down his or her way, then I think they would be happy that at least their voice was heard. And if the decision didn't go their way, then as long as they were aware that they've been heard and the decision was made as a collaborative team approach with the Reeve and the council. I hope that answers your question there, Ralph.
Thank you, Pat. And so I'll repeat the question, Tiffany. Every council faces controversial issues and questions. How do you process or decide on those issues?
So I agree, but controversial issues are a part of democracy and a great part of democracy, because when you talk about these controversial issues, you generally come up with a really good answer, a compromise. So it's not something that we shy away from. We want to hear from residents, so when controversial issues come up, we encourage people to come for a delegation. We encourage, if it's with a developer, we encourage public open houses, public engagement. We do all those type of things. As a council, we want to make sure that we get all the information before making a decision. If it requires expert opinions from our directors or outside consultants, we are more than willing to do that, and we have done that over the last 8 years to get that information. We are also bound to follow our development plans, our secondary plans, our zoning plan, and that dictates a lot of our decisions. Sometimes that is not the popular decision, unfortunately. However, being an elected official, that's part of your job. Those plans were created with a lot of public input. And sometimes the decisions just aren't what people thought they would be. A lot of times, though, we will hold off on making a decision and have a meeting with residents or businesses to see if we can find a solution that makes everybody happy, to see if we can put criteria in place as a compromise. That's happened quite a few times. So we try to exhaust every avenue of communication and collaboration for those controversial issues before making a decision, because we want to make everybody as comfortable as possible whenever possible in the municipality, of course.
Thank you, Tiffany. This next question, or series of questions, there's about 4 in the same vein, is of course, hot topic, our water. So I'm going to kind of combine and just ad-lib the questions here. To both of you, how would you address keeping our water safe from industrial activity in our aggregate areas, the safety of our aquifer in general, safety of water quality, and again, specifically the Silica project in Vivian? Somebody here would like you to compare it to the Walkerton Ontario disaster. So this comes from a combination of people, but 2 of them were Eileen Wozni and Daryl Spear. Pat, we'll let you answer that.
Again, I'm going to have to see that if you don't mind.
In a nutshell, water quality.
Yeah. Water quality is a big issue, and it has to be, because without water, what are you? You have to breathe the air and you have to drink the water. The CIO silica sand, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist or an environmentalist at all. I do find that the issue is has to be handled delicately. We're still waiting for the Clean Environment Commission review for the extraction process, but we're talking about 9,000 wells that are capped after use on 8,000 acres of land. That'll essentially be a big wasteland of area that can't be utilized. You can't put houses, you can't put anything on top of that, because you got wells all over the place there, and eventually those wells will deteriorate, and the water will seep directly into the aquifer. Again, I want to elaborate there that I'm not an environmentalist by any means. I love big motors, and I love motorcycles and the whole 9 yards. But I think for my family, for my kids and my grandkids that are coming into the community, and everybody's kids here, I think we have to be very diligent on our silica sand project there. And unless it's 100% sure that there's not going to be any difficulties there, I think I'm leaning towards the fact better be safe than sorry. As for the Walkerton disaster, I really don't know much about that. I believe it was a water treatment center that wasn't kept up in Ontario, and I guess essentially once the water is contaminated there, then life as usual will be tainted for quite some time. Water does not regenerate itself, and it doesn't have the impurities taken out of it unless you have the sand there to do that. It's a natural filtration system there at the silica sand plant there, and I think we have to be very cognizant. I don't want to gamble with our lives. Essentially, that's what it'll be. The water will not be there, and if it's not good to drink, then it's really nothing at all. And taking 1.3 tons of sand a year over a 25-year period, could be detrimental to our life as we know it in Arm Springfield, and plus other RMs. The other RMs as well are looking pretty closely at us to make sure that how this is going to transpire. And I think we have to err on the side of safety at all times. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And so, Tiffany, same question. All of these questions are coming down to this water, silica sand thing, and it's basically the safety of our aquifer, the silica project, but also there are people that live close to it and question why we didn't stop them, or why you didn't stop them from drilling near their aquifer, and especially when they live in the immediate area around Vivian.
So I will address the water quality holistically first. So since I've been on council for 8 years, we've done 8 water studies, and we've implemented a number of the recommendations from those 8 water studies. Our water and waste department is taking whatever recommendations are remaining. They are compiling those, and we are seeing how to implement those, because of course we want to keep our water safe. A good example of what this council has done to protect our aquifer is in West Pine Ridge. So with our new secondary plan, they are allowed to do smaller subdivision lots, with the caveat of each lot that they want to subdivide into 5 acres requires it's an individual hydrogeological study. And if that study says that it is not safe to have that 5-acre lot for our water supply, they will not be allowed to move forward with that subdivision. And that cost is borne not by the tax base, but that cost is borne by the applicant who would like to subdivide, because this entire council, myself included, think water is critically essential to our municipality, and we want to protect it. In regards to the CO Silica initiative, so when they first started drilling, that actually is private information. We didn't have that information. When you're looking for minerals, and I understand that people think there is something the municipality can do, mineral exploration is a provincial jurisdiction. When we got the information of what was going on, and they were conducting testing, and they were going to bring forward a report, council came out with a public statement that said, when we receive that report as a council, we will review it and make a decision how we want to move forward. So when we received that report, council reviewed it, and we requested a Clean Environment Commission from the province with a statement and via resolution. That has never been done in the history of Manitoba. This is the first time a private organization has ever embarked on a CAC from a municipality requesting that through the province. Right now we're in a holding pattern. They were supposed to host hearings, which we are participating in the beginning of October, but the province, or the Clean Environment Commission, is running behind. We are doing our own independent study, which I have talked about from the council table. That independent study should be coming soon, and that will be presented to the public. Again, I want to emphasize, this council, myself included, absolutely want to protect our water supply, and we will continue to do that in every decision that we make.
Thank you. I've got another couple of questions here that are along the same vein as well. In this case, I'm going to just assign my name to them because we're running out of questions here. We're soon to wrap up on the public questions, but this question to both of you was, why do we need a new community center when we have churches that are empty more often than not, and 2 businesses that have conference rooms that would be utilized as well? These places make money, and it takes billions or millions to build and maintain a center. Pat, we'll let you answer that first. So it's essentially, why do we need a community center?
I've got 4 grown kids. 2 of them are married, and they had to put take their social somewhere else. I think a community hall is integral to a community. I remember when we had the small hall here, or the older hall by the arena. It was a great place to be. Everybody went there, and everybody enjoyed themselves. All the kids got together, and all the adults got together. There were socials there, and there was a blend in the community there. I come from Ontario there, where I didn't know anything about socials until I came here. I remember as a young Mountie doing these social permit checks, and I'm thinking, what the heck is all this about for socials? And I think it's a great thing. And I've been to socials myself off duty and had a great time doing it. So I think it's kind of a center of the community. The rec center in itself is more than just the hall. It's also a place where the elderly people or the elders in our community can do certain activities as a walking track and so on there. The other aspects of that is the setting in itself is a central point in the community. It should be a central point within the community. Paying the $26 million for the rec center is the projection there from the 2019 funds. I will have to discuss that with council and then with some input into the community, and depending on whether we get this approved through the ISIP or the Investment Canada Infrastructure Program. Everything's up in the air, so we don't know that. All I do know is that we did have a plan in 2010 that was an exceptional plan from Reeve Skrupski. That plan, we had that in the vault there, and we could have used that quite easily for these consultations there. That was never brought forward. The new one, I don't know how much that cost us to implement that when we had one already in the vault. I'm hoping that answers the question.
Thank you, Pat. We'll let Tiffany answer that question. Basically, I'll condense it here. Why do we need a new rec center? I'm guessing they're specifically talking about Oak Bank.
Yes.
And especially if there are other venues, churches, etc., businesses, with conference rooms.
So why do we need a new rec center? Well, first of all, Oak Bank doesn't have one. And we don't have a facility big enough in Springfield to house large events. Churches max out at about 300. The Cooks Creek Community Club is about 400. This facility does not need to be made any larger. The gymnasium holds 1,000 people, and the meeting room holds up to 100 people. So it's a great combination to hold various events. We want to make sure that we have a place where people can come and congregate to. I hate seeing us lose business to the city of Winnipeg when people can have their events here. I want people to live, work, stay, and play local. When we designed the rec center, the components that we put in are for all stages of life. So you have a walking track, you have an indoor playground, you have a gymnasium, you have an indoor soccer pitch. But that design from day one was also designed in pieces. So we've actually applied for a new grant through the provincial government. We're very hopeful we'll get some funding. And if we do get funding, we can look at our budget and say, you know what, it's not the right time to build $24 million. But with the grant from the province, with what we have fundraised, with what we have saved up in our reserve fund, we can build a $12 million facility. And we can get the gymnasium and the meeting room and the cafeteria and the indoor playground and the offices. And we can build that as a start. And then we can build a plan to finish the pieces that we took off. We designed it in a way so we can move forward as soon as we get that grant funding from the province. We're very hopeful we'll qualify for this new program. In addition to that, just a couple weeks ago, our fundraising group of volunteers in Springfield came and presented their plan publicly to council. It's an amazing plan. They have very aggressive goals to fundraise for this facility. We're very excited to see what they can do with their fundraising efforts. And again, what we want to do is make sure that we have some sort of a center, a recreation community center hall in Springfield, in the town of Oak Bank, that serves those larger venues. That plan was also discussed with community clubs and sporting groups to make sure that we weren't interfering with business of other community clubs and affecting their revenue. It just fills a gap and a need that we have in Springfield moving forward, and we're very excited to move forward building once we get grant dollars, because that's always been the caveat from council, is we must get support from the province or the feds, and we must do fundraising as a community before we move forward, and hopefully that'll all come together in the very near future.
Thank you. Now we're down to a couple of questions here, but we do have some time. Some of them don't have a name, or they have one name, or I can't read the names. So This is going to be kind of just an open question. I'm going to target both of you. I think it was for you, Tiffany, but it's a good question for both of you.
Okay.
We'll call this person from Bob Phalange. You mentioned open communication. Do you know how many email addresses or mail addresses are registered? There are 5,700 households in the RM. What percentage of households are registered? Would either of you know that?
So I don't have the exact number, but the last time I heard it was only between 800 and 1,000. And I would really love to get more people on that email list. It's a great way to get information. I've put it out on social media numerous times. We put it out in the Clipper. When we have these type of open houses or forums or events, when you come to council for a planning meeting, you can do it at the front office. It's not as many as I would like. So please, if you're not on it, please sign up. I would love to get as many people as we can on that email list so they're getting all the information instead of hearing third, fourth, or fifth hand, or not hearing it at all, unfortunately. So if you have the time, please spread that around. Please go do it if you haven't yet, because I agree, we need more people on that email list.
Thank you, Tiffany. So in that vein, Pat, would you do anything to solicit more contact or email addresses for contact out to the RMs of Springfield as a whole?
Yeah, sure it would. I think that question was probably more towards Mayor Fell. I'm not sure. I'm not in office, so I really can't as be defined as Mayor Fell has there. It's always better to have more people on a list that you could fan out this information to. The more, the merry. We have 17,000 or approaching 17,000 people in the RM of Springfield. So getting it out to as many families as possible is a good thing.
Thank you, Pat. I'm going to combine these two questions too, both from Carolyn Lintott and from Karen L., which I'm pretty certain is Karen Lalonde. Mayor Fell, are you able to comment on the brochure that was sent out to Springfield residents last month? And tying that in with, can you please explain what disinformation you are talking about, if there is disinformation? What is the truth?
I will. So I did get the brochure, as everybody probably did. I've actually labeled it and circled a number of pieces. I will get through as many as I can in 3 minutes. So a $3.3 million expansion of piped water shows in the Enola budget. Whatever the rationale is, Mayor Fell and Council should come clean and explain this extravagant project to the residents and who will likely pay. As we've said repeatedly from the council table, when there is expansions of water, unlike what historically happened about 10 years ago on previous council, who made everybody pay for the water line in Oakbank, developers are responsible for the infrastructures for their development. So that is a piece of misinformation. Next, council's proposed new zoning bylaw paves the way for industries like CO Silica to proceed in Springfield without local public hearings. This is unequivocally false. So when CO Silica came to apply for their rezoning, council denied it without merit. Now, because of Bill 37, they have a legal right to go to the municipal board and appeal that through the province. But again, I repeat, council denied that application unanimously as without merit. So that is false. Mayor Fell and council ignored recommendation arising from these expensive water studies and not done a study on the Sandyland aquifers where the CO Silica sand mining project is proposed. So we are currently embarked on, we've hired an independent consultant out of Ontario to do a review of the CO Silica sand project. As soon as that review is complete, it will be public information for the constituency to review. So that is a piece of false information. Let's go to the next one. White Shepherd Holdings and the Sokol subdivision. So in this brochure, it says that council is giving special treatment to White Shepherd Holdings and not a local agricultural subdivision. To be clear, council approved both applications And when it went to the province, who's the final decision on subdivisions, the province approved White Shepherd, the province denied Sokol. This council treated residents equally. That again is false information. Did you want me to finish or did you want me to stop, Lynette?
You know what? What's your time like? You got 20 seconds.
All right. That's a good one too. Gag order on employees. We have been told more than once that municipal employees can risk losing their job by speaking out publicly. This is unequivocally false. Council has never said to a staff member, if you speak out publicly, you will lose your job.
Time.
So that is 4 examples or 5 examples of misinformation, but I assure you this whole brochure is full of misinformation, and if there is a piece of accurate information in here, it's without context, and without the context, I also classify that as misinformation.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Okay, the rest of the questions, in all fairness, are a little one-sided, but they are out there. But I'm going to give you both an opportunity to look at that particular issue and comment. One of them from Angela Johnson. So, Tiffany, we'll go to you first again. Why did you see fit to award the council 20% wage increase when municipal workers had to strike for their wage increase?
Well, those two really aren't relevant to one another. So what happened in 2019 is the federal government removed a 1/3, I'm going to call it a tax break, for municipal elected officials. I don't know if it applied to other levels of government because of the level of wages we have as municipal employees. So it was a recommendation by the AMM to adjust our salaries to make up for the federal government removing that tax break. So once we were done, it wasn't a wage increase, because a wage increase would mean at the end of the day you take home more money. Council did not take home more money. Council ended up, after that was removed, bringing home the same amount of money. During COVID, because we didn't want to be a burden on the tax base as well, Council in our bylaw gets a 1.5% increase, cost of living increase. We waive those for both years of COVID because of the situation of the implications of an increase with COVID. So I just want to clarify that. Now, some people may interpret what was done differently or try to spread information that it was an increase. It was not. Almost every municipality made that adjustment, and that's just the facts of what happened.
Thank you. Thank you, Tip. I'm
Do
sorry.
you want me to address the union quickly? I can't legally comment on anything that's happening with the union because it's not completed yet. So I apologize. I can't answer anything regarding that question.
Thank you. All right, this question, again, was coming at the incumbent, but I think it's something I am going to get you to comment on before I get you to answer, Tiffany.
Sure.
So the community of Springfield was surveyed to determine the number of councillors in the RM. The survey was conducted using a Google document. Many people voted multiple times. Is this how you plan on conducting surveys in the future? Now, just in general, Pat, what are your thoughts on the 4 wards then, is what I'm taking from this.
My general thought on the 4 wards, looking at the system there, it's better to have odd numbers, of course, there where you've got a Reeve and the 4 councillors. So you're probably going to get a decision one way or the other. It's not always going to be the 4-0 there. As for the alignment there, I think we could probably tweak it. I think we have a chance to do so, but like the one question before that, almost the same question, would I do that as a Reeve there in my mandate there? I think I'll look at the process somewhere during my tenure. The way it is now, using the Google Maps, I'm not sure how that really makes a difference there. But if they're dividing it for population to make all the zones as equal as possible, it just seems kind of strange where wards 1 and ward 2, there's literally a funnel coming down the middle of Oakbank, going 1 mile to the east and straight down, and then incorporating all of Dugald. But to answer the question, then I probably wouldn't be addressing that until later on in my tenure.
Thank you, Pat. And so, Tiffany, the question was directed at you by Jerry Core. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts on the 4-ward RM and the 4-councillor change?
I think the main goal when we looked at wards, first of all, was to ensure that there was an odd number of council members, including the head of council, around the council table. We did go out with that that survey. The majority that came back wanted a smaller council. It won't affect the level of service, nor will affect the level of service that you get from your councillor. I am happy that people responded. I'm happy that people participated in that process. Council is required every term to look at wards to make sure that they're generally balanced by representation, by population. In the end, if we were to spend more money, my preference would be to keep a smaller number around the council table and spend that money on services for the tax base anyway. So a councillor, but all said and done, generally costs between around 45 to 55,000. I would much rather see that 45 to 55,000 put into dust abatement, or expanding our garbage program, or expanding the service in regards to grading our roads. So I think listening to the constituency, that's what we're here to do. I'm very happy that so many people participated in that. And we were happy to move forward with the lower amount of council members. If for some reason it doesn't work over the next term, like I said, we have the chance to amend that. But I can't imagine a scenario where there's any derogatory effects on the RM of Springfield, other than seeing increased services if we have that ability, of course.
Thank you, Tiffany. So, because we'd like to wrap this up in a few minutes, I once again want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for planning this and organizing this. Courtney, Scott, Kathleen, Shandy, thank you very much, and the Sunrise School Division as well. At the end of the day, guys, these people are positive. They're looking to be enthusiastic about serving you for the next 4 years. They want your vote. And I think that in this crazy time that we're living in, coming out of COVID, I give them a hand for stepping out and putting themselves out there. What we'd like to do, though, is give them some closing remarks here. And so, Pat, you are a candidate for mayor of the RM of Springfield. How would you like to end this evening?
Well, I want to thank everybody here for being here again. It's very important to understand what your mayor-elected officials are here. They're here for you. I want the job of Reeve in the RM of Springfield. I'm qualified to do so. Have the ability to learn, and it's going to be an uphill or a steep curve to do so, but I'm more than capable of doing that. My history and my employment with the RSMP, my distinguished service, my detachment commander experience, and my unit commander experience makes me qualified to do the job. I bring with me that ability. I also wanted to make it plain that I am a totally independent running candidate. I have no sponsors. I have no allegiances to anyone or any group. I am a single candidate there. This is all on me. All my decisions are myself. I've got. I'll go into the office there at a full-time position. Again, learning as the job goes, and I think Mayor Fell said it takes like 2 years to get up and running there, and I expect that'll be the same with myself and whatever councillors are in there, whether they're the incumbents or whether they're well, there will be new councillors in any case there. I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I'm offering a new vision, a new voice in a municipal governance. And everybody have a great Thanksgiving and be safe.
Thank you, Pat Terrian. Incumbent candidate Mayor Tiffany Fell, how would you like to close the evening?
I want to say thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity, to the constituency, and thank you to everyone who attended tonight and everyone who will view this forum later on YouTube. I really enjoy being able to connect with the residents whenever I have the opportunity. Myself and my fellow council members and administration have worked very hard over the last 4 years to ensure that projects and initiatives move forward in Springfield. My goal is that you see your tax dollars at work and able to see value for those taxes throughout the entire RM. Over the next 4 years, I'm going to continue to actively engage with the community. I will be working hard to make Springfield an amazing place to live, work, play, and stay. I also want to highlight again how important communication is. I have made strong efforts to make myself available to constituents, and I will continue to be as responsive as I can. I have mentioned a few projects earlier in the night, but there's a couple more that I didn't get to mention that I do want to highlight that I'm very excited about. So we have our Dougal Place Assisted Living Facility and Aquatic Center, an upcoming playground in Enola, our Springfield Rec Center, the resurfacing and upgrading of Lorne Hill and Deacon Road, the reconstruction of the Zora Bridge, our numerous drainage projects we've completed, and we're working on a number of initiatives with staff to increase services to our residents. One that comes to top of mind is dust abatement. It is an exciting time for Springfield. We are a diverse municipality with varying needs and wants from our residents and businesses. My goal is to create value for your tax dollars. As I mentioned, the above projects, I also want to acknowledge my fellow council members' support in moving these projects forward, but also recognize the dedication and hard work of our staff in helping to achieve these goals from the community. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the amazing hard work of our volunteers through the community, in our schools, our community clubs, our various municipal boards. All your work is valued and appreciated. And lastly, community participation. To create a healthy, thriving community takes effort and contributions from everyone, from elected officials to staff, volunteers, businesses, other levels of government, and community members. I am grateful for everyone's involvement and contributions for our community. So thank you so much. Our community is moving forward in a positive direction and looking forward into the next term. I will be focusing on continued responsible growth, increasing community services, expanding our economic base, and ensuring that public safety is a top priority. Thanks again for coming out. Please come to support me on the 15th or the 26th with your vote, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Tiffany. In closing tonight, thank you once again for engaging, being here, and hearing these folks out. Have a great Thanksgiving.